So my school is Karaka School. These are our values: learning, excellence, adaptability, respect and nurture. And of course we're trying to sort of tie all of our assessment for learning into where we want to be excellent and we want to be adaptable. This drives our whole school. Now this is new too. There we go. Background, assessment for learning is we realise that it accelerates learning. All the research told us that it's accelerating learning up to double, so that's probably why the government's spending so much time on it. I did an assessment for learning paper, a couple of assessment papers, and I went back to my classroom and I still couldn't work out really the practical application of assessment for learning. And then Sarah Hines came along with a screech at the gate. She's our principal, our new principal, she was, and she was instrumental in guiding our school through the process. And the actual application, which is what we wanted to know. We had the theory, but not the application. Carla Cook then arrived, the DP, and she was a wealth of knowledge for us as teachers in the practical application of assessment for learning. Janet McCarroll from Evaluative Associates guided us in 2017, and we went through all the 6 capabilities. I hope you're familiar with those. And today, this year, we're embedding them again. It's part of our personal inquiry. So we're going to put a lot of investment. We have put a lot of investment into assessment for learning. And there's just a little photo of some of my target students from last year, and there they are, busy assessing. Assessment is not separate from the lesson. So my modelling books, which I've bought, could be something as simple as I'm learning to solve subtraction questions by changing the second numbers into a tidy number. So I tell them how to do it, and then we see really how each individual is doing in that respect. There's extra tuition immediately, and I often adjust straight away. And I, as a teacher, I have to be familiar with my curriculum and have a clear understanding really of how and where we're headed. And my main goal really is to find evidence of that particular piece of learning. So we work it out together. Peer assessment and self-assessment strategies, I actually have to teach them as a teacher, and I spend a lot of time embedding it as a teacher. It's recorded, my processes, I actively plan for it at writing at the moment in our little area. We're actually looking at success criteria. I speak too fast, I know. Success criteria and clear goals, clear learning goals, and we've been fostering that love amongst our class, really. And as a classroom teacher, my role is really active. I have to be right beside my children, and I'm busy, I'm flat out especially for the core learning areas, engaging in dialogue. So probably I spend, 85% of my time is with groups of children, talking to children, and the rest of the time is our whole class activity. So that's that. Oh. Yeah, so there's always co-construction of the learning intentions and of the meaning. Creating meaning informs my future teaching. That's really, it differentiates quite strongly. And I need to know, as a teacher, how each of my children is thinking. Otherwise, how can I assess them, or how can I move them forward in their learning? It's ongoing, and it's individually centred, so students really have a big part to play. It's not just me that's involved in their learning. My dialogue, my talking scaffolds the learning, and the process isn't linear, it's like a big mesh, and I'll show you how it's turned out eventually. I share gloss, running records, EAST, or results with my student, but that's actually just part of the process. So we talk, we discuss, we find out where the gaps are, and we move forward. And I try to give them strategies and knowledge to improve. My job is to give my children strategies and knowledge to improve. Yeah, so I see them all regularly. I have to have detailed knowledge of the progressions. My teacher scripts I really have to know. And I ask the children, how am I going? How's this going for you? And so I check in quite regularly to see how it's working for them. And they say, Mrs. Corlett, you're going too fast. Perhaps they might say, I've got one of my lovely students here from last year, Hayley, and she was far, far better at conveying. She's got a wonderful pace, and I really learnt from her how to moderate my pace. Co-construction of learning intentions and of meaning, and I expect good quality work, and my children know what quality work is. Self and peer assessment, right, so we worked out success criteria. describe what you hear. We were looking at the sunset and describe what you see. And the children said to me, these are young children, 2 to 4 would be about right for what you hear, and 3 to 6 about what you see. So my learning intentions recorded in the modelling book, and I've got numerous modelling books, at least one for each group. And the students often go back to those strategies. They're young children, they often turn back. They say, oh, I need to go back to that, Mrs. Corlett. And the success criteria has to be simple enough for the students to peer assess. Right, here's one of our young teachers. She hasn't been teaching for very long. She's got young children.
Do you want me to say it?
Yes.
After our Leah meeting about Charlie and his reluctance to writing, I took the advice of my colleagues and introduced things like my basic words on the wall that we practice daily. We practice writing the words, we sound them out, and then we write words that rhyme. I also have sentence starters, just basic sentence starters that we use to write our stories. After that meeting, I also asked Suzanne Corlett to come in and model some writing. This is what she did. She introduced a Y chart and a graphic organizer that helped us co-construct our success criteria. It was great. The kids loved it. They learned about wow words and also the why. So why are we learning to introduce wow words into our writing? And it's so the story is interesting. So then after that, I started to do Y charts and the graphic organisers in my class daily. So this is a Y chart about using wow words. We talked about, we had a child bring in some binoculars, you can see it in the picture, just for news, and we decided to use that for our writing. We pretended that we were on a boat, and we were looking through the binoculars and talked about what we could see, hear, and what we were feeling when we were looking through the binoculars. So we did a Y chart, see, hear, feel. I used the little pictures just as a guide. Basically, as a class, we just talked about what we could see. Everybody had different ideas. Some people were more confident talking about their writing than others. Then once we sort of had a grasp of what we were going to write about, they introduced wow words. So they talked about they could see trees, falling, boiling sun, my heart beating, waves hitting, lots of different things. And then they added, they'd say, oh, waves are crashing, and then other kids would say, but how big were the waves? And they'd say they were huge waves, and then they talked about the noises that they could hear. That sort of led on into our success criteria. They just realised straight away, well, we've got see, hear and feel. That's 3 things. So then they said, well, we'll know we're successful when we've had 3 sentences, because they needed to have a see sentence, a hear sentence and a feel sentence. And I think the biggest draw card for this was that they could physically tick it off as they wrote it in. And they said, well, if we're having 3 sentences, then we need to have at least 3 wow words. And that was basically our lesson. And since then, we've done lots. And Charlie absolutely loves it. Loves writing, very excited. He's all over it. Here we go. And that's it.
Right. Now, Christine hasn't been teaching for very long, and my next clip is, and it's my last one. They're 5 years old, yes. Those children are 5, it can be done. And it makes it, with Charlie, we discussed him as a team, he was having problems. So we get together as teams and we discuss our target students, our priority students, come in under that umbrella at times. So I need the next one. And here we've got a little girl, and she verbalizes success criteria. She's working on metaphors.
I am Olivia Sang. I'm from Moko Moko Room in Caracas School. For our writing, we were writing metaphors poems. Our exemplar was the poem My Granddad's Hands. My success criteria was to involve 3 metaphors. I wrote 4, so I succeeded. I will now tell you my poem. Olivia Sang is a destructive hurricane. Her hair is a gold pony's tail. Her eyes are full of green sea salt water. Her pupils are great black sharks.
And that's Olivia. And Olivia's 7. Yes, so I'm just trying to get into the next. There's no more clips. No more tense moments. Right, so I'm up to slide number 9. Okay. Now here, TKI is one of my best friends. I hope we've got primary school teachers here. So they have simple prompts. This is a really good one, especially with the second language learners. We've got what happened first, next, after that, at the end. And they just tick those as they go along. Often they want them, they get them from the exemplar box, and they put them in front of them. After that, they'll come up with their own, they think about an idea. If they're having trouble thinking about their story, we say, tell somebody else, draw my idea, write down the words with the young ones, and then this prompt here. It's probably one of the best prompts at primary school in the lower juniors. And this here is what I'm always focusing on. What am I learning and where is my evidence? They have to give me evidence, so they will have to highlight those on a little tag at the end. This is what to avoid. I started off with these long sort of, which I co-constructed with the children. There was too much focus on checklists, too much lengthy feedback, too many lengthy instructions, too little teacher and student dialogue does not work. They tune out. So that really is a few weeks of work there, which I'd break down now. Now Carla Cook came into our school and we got together. After a few months, we got together as a team, a literacy team, and we put our own kids speak onto the progressions. And I know in my room that I've got all the domains along here, vocabulary, spelling, etc. I've got the levels here. It keeps me honest. That's my English curriculum. That is my writing curriculum, and I use it all the time. The children at the moment are working on vocabulary, which is why we're talking about wow words. I've got level 1, which they're trying to get a few wow words, adjectives into their writing, and then I go right up to level 3 where we're getting words for effect. How do we do this? Right, we put metaphors in, similes, I've got to actively teach that, and alliteration. And I'll have them at my jelly bean table, lots of different levels, all in one half a circle. We're sitting there and they feed off each other. I find these ones, little Harry, and he said yesterday, I think I can do a simile, Mrs. Corlett. And I said, okay then, Harry. So Harry brought in and he wrote a page of similes. He was very proud of them and read them out. He came to school, he said, I like school and I want to write some more similes, please. And he said, could I go on to metaphors? Because we'd been talking about metaphors. They may be low on their spelling, but they may be right up here with their deeper features. I'm finding that I have 2 names. I have my surface features on one side of the domains, and then I have my deeper features on the other side. The children can read them, they know where they're going, they know where they've been, and they know where they're at, which is important. These look really rough. This is probably where I do most of my teaching. These are their sticky notes. I hope I haven't got any spelling mistakes there. So Samantha's working at creating atmosphere. So we've looked at the tools for creating atmosphere and metaphors. I've given her one example. We've worked through some. Her heart was black coal. And then we've got over here Isabella's working on main ideas. And she's also having a go at similes and metaphors, which she fed off from Samantha. This idea of main ideas, supporting ideas, which we have to do right through our up to degrees and further, I'm sure. So they have to know what a good sentence is, they have to know how to cluster, and they do it quite quickly. It's a level 3 goal, but the children are getting it quite young. It's incredible how they accelerate with this detailed teaching. They rip these off the wall. Some of them prefer to have them in their books. When we've finished and they're ready for a new goal, usually 1 or 2 weeks, I put these into, if anyone can think of a better system, I put them into a big book and I just date them so they can actually see. It's good for their parents too. It's good for relationships, I suppose. Here we are. These are my modelling books. We are learning how to use wow words to describe characters, looks, actions, characteristics, and I tell them a good narrative develops a rich image to the reader. And over here, they've got to do a look, an action, a character. Over here was conjunctions. I've got conjunction boxes. I've got lots and lots of resources around my room. Why do we do it? And I show them actively how we highlight our success, which I expect them to do in their books. And generally, it's there. Exemplars, in some ways, I wish we had. I know that this is how the child wrote it. I'd quite like TKI to swap those around. Exemplars are best as hands-on examples. I don't have that many on my walls now, I used to. They are in my boxes. So I sit alongside the children, and if we're perhaps working on persuasive writing, right, we'll look at an introduction, level 1, level 2. I just pull them out of my box and I'll just say, well, what's the difference? What's the difference here between level 2 and level 3? You're at level 2, you've got all the elements there in your writing, so what do we need to do here? It's a very quick conversation, and we determine a few of them, and then we work out the success criteria, and a new sticky note, and off they go. All right, so it's quite good. So we're always comparing pieces of work, always comparing, and we like to incorporate the strategies into our writing. We had 2 metaphors, 2 similes, and 1 example of rhyme after looking at those exemplars. I do lots of co-construction with the resources with the children. We make these ourselves. Once again, I hope that the spelling's fine there. These are all along the window, and we've got lots and lots of them, and we've also got them in my big box. And they use these. They come and get these. It really lifts their enrichment of language. And it's a continuous thing, continuous. So I've got Y charts, jam jars, emotion cards, conjunction cards, words to describe heat, sea, summer, winter, all visible, and they have access to them. And it's amazing how they remember. Yes?
Sorry, I can't quite see the picture. Can you explain what they are?
It's a bit shiny, but I don't think I brought a word card in. But if you come up here, it's just from the Sheena Cameron writing book. So I blew them up, and I have lots and lots of blank ones and laminated, and we just write on them. Yeah.
What's one of them?
Right, so we have got, let me see, a dragon, yes, scales, flames, hot flames, eyes, dark crystals, lonely, old, sad. We'd read a story about a sad dragon. We've got the water, leaping, turning, murky, swift, powerful, an ancient king, a rainbow. We try and build up all the time, building up their vocabulary. I've got some examples here of their work. I have a little booklet, and I make this in the first term for the learner-focused relationships. And thinking about, this is straight off TKI, just put my own name on it. Thinking about who I am as a learner. We can access these resources, they're for us. Who's in charge of your learning? Have you come ready for learning? So we go through these in the first term, and we revisit them if we need to halfway through the year. What is the important messages? So we sort of co-construct our room together at the start. That's number 17. And basically what I want from my children is I try to build on their area of expertise. So I want them to feel really valued, and I want them to know that they've got a special talent. I tell them as soon as they come and I find something. And I want to remind them how important they are to me, and how it would be impossible to manage without them, because they are actually involved in quite a lot of the teaching. If they've actually mastered something, they can go and teach, especially in maths, and we share and celebrate. So I want them to have a happy, relaxed place in their life where they're prepared to take risks. And so I don't have a reward system. The children seem to be fairly self-motivated to learn. This is one of our year 5 and 6. We've got a modern learning environment up there, and they have just made this beautiful kokaka. It's kokaka classroom, and we pursue excellence, we show perseverance, we're collaborative. So we're always right through the school, going right back to those values from the time they start school. It's a happy place. Karaka School's a happy place. Reading, I'm pulling apart texts a lot more than I used to with these strategies. I'm focusing on the students finding evidence. I say, okay, you've said that. Well, where is the evidence in the text? Or what has worked here? Why has the author conveyed this wonderful scene? What strategies has the author? Oh, descriptive words. So I'm sort of making relationships all the time between the two literacy. They're so linked, reading and writing. Lots of text reorganisation, emphasis on making explicit links between reading and writing. Greater emphasis now during reading sessions on pulling texts apart, deconstruction, by analysing the purpose, the work, the content, the meaning, the structure and the features. the interconnect. I sort of try and connect everything, and it makes it quite meaningful and very purposeful for them. If they need help in mathematics, I often find another student that is keen to volunteer and assist with those that need a little extra help with a new strategy. I've got Samir, who's really good at adding on 10s. He's our adding on 10 expert. He's passed that stage a long time ago. I had him last year. And he's also got a wonderful sense of humour, which we tap into a lot. So if they're needing help with things, and I'm busy with my groups, I can't do it on my own. I might say, Samir, Jamison's just said he's having trouble here. This is the bit that he's pointed to, the bit that he's actually stuck on with the success criteria. So can you go and take a little mini lesson? And that seems to happen. So there's lots of whiteboards, and they've got access to my pens and pencils, exemplars. It's their classroom as well. Yeah. They want me talking about their own personal learning. I say to them, what works for you? They want me. They want me to sit alongside them and to lead them further, because that's why we're here. A dentist is looking after teeth. My cousin's a psychiatrist. He works after mental health. And my brothers do engineering. I mean, we've all got our own area of expertise. And I really feel that as teachers, we need to take that back, because we are trained to do it. This sort of program, the parents come in, the children are saying, look, this is what we're doing. We're learning metaphors. It's a lovely environment. So parents sort of, yeah, they're fine. They hear me talking. They hear me talking alongside their peers, engaging in learning conversations frequently and moving forward. We focus on the bit of learning, not too wide, or they'll have too much to process. Move on quickly if they have the understanding. I think we dumb quite a few things down for children. They've got it, they need to move on. You know, they love it. They love a little bit of a challenge, and as long as it's within their sort of proximal, that they get there. They really get there. My cousin teaches technology and maths at secondary school. She had a boy who wanted to build a wall for a tsunami, and he wanted to make a little structure for it. It was his inquiry. But she said that's fourth year engineering at university. So his success criteria did not link in with that task. We've got these beautiful progressions in New Zealand, and they're world class, and they've all been set out for us. And I think we should really pay close, keep them fairly close so we don't get too many gaps. Flexible grouping. My grouping is very flexible. Occasional strategies simply have to be front-loaded, I've found, especially when we're moving from stage 4 to stage 5. Stage 5 opens up in maths a lot of extra. It opens up higher order thinking, I suppose, in maths, and lots more strategies. But we do have to get that knowledge in too, because children are going into secondary schools and they don't know their times tables, they can't factorise, they need to have these skills so they can move. We owe them that. I try to actively introduce my students to wider conceptual connections, rational thinking and critical thinking, which helps their self-assessment. We have a philosophy book, we're always debating, and my learners have a sense of purpose, I feel. They do, and they're happy, as I've said before, they're happy. Impact. Accelerated progress, very noticeable lift, and plus the dialogue around the language it's lovely. It's like a web, it just takes off. And goes in all different angles. It's not linear, it's a web. So we focus on the learner and the learning, common language spoken, right from new entrants up, greater collaboration. It's not just me in the classroom, it's them as well. The locus of control has definitely shifted. The students are self-motivated. There's purpose, I hope, in our classroom most of the time. We're in the business of learning. Maybe I'm delusional. Maybe I actually was. Maybe I am. There's lots of descriptive feedback about how the learner is sitting in relation to the goal. They should be. You should go into the classroom and hear them talking about their goals. Really involved. They get really involved. So the allies and success criteria are part of every lesson, and our students expect this at Karaka School right from when they're little. What are we learning? That co-construction only takes a minute sometimes. The student and teachers view assessment as being formative and to be shared. It's no longer hidden or abstract. We had a whole day last year, the government kindly gave us one, and we spent it with our EASTL, and the children sat alongside their teachers one by one and marked together with the teacher, which was really valuable. Students and teachers view assessment, have I repeated myself? So let's go on. Regular conversations with individuals in small groups, flexible grouping, mixed grouping. They learn from each other. You have to be quite well planned. No dithering. You have to have that planning done to keep the pace going, and you have to alter your planning week by week. Clear learning intentions, co-constructed success criteria. That's one very, very important. Accept only good quality. Students know. I had Mason come up the other day, and he slowed down. He said, "No, this isn't good enough, Mrs. Corlett, I won't show you." And he went back and repeated, brought it back confidently. And I said, "So what have you done here? How have you improved your work, Mason?" I know what he's capable of, and they like it. That's what they want. So you've got to gather their voices, ask how you are going, ask them what you need to help them with. I've got 2 tomorrow that I need to work with in my subtraction of 10s, my little tiny ones, and I've got another one that needs help, a little bit of help with multiplication, just one bit of the strategy, and I know that I'll be able to show her tomorrow. I've just initialed her in my modelling book. And I ask if the message is clear, and they are very good appraisers. I find that they are very good at critiquing. Hayley will know, she's been in there. They're very good at saying, "That's not very good, Mrs. Corlett. Could you do this? Could you explain that a little bit? I haven't quite got that message. You went too fast. It's this bit here that I'm stuck on the success criteria." Focus on the bit of learning you're working on, not too wide, or they'll have too much to process. Move on quickly, and you're not writing down all the success criteria because there goes half the lesson often. You've got to have it in your modelling book. Pre-check to determine the starting point. I have a lot of trouble initially at the moment with the peer assessment. They know how to self-assess. Now they're looking at the success criteria and looking at their peers' work, and that will probably take me another 6 to 8 weeks, and I actively have to teach it. It's my older children who I had last year that are teaching. It's taking quite a long time. Celebrate success, share the learning, read great texts out to the class, discuss their journey, their thoughts and their lives. They all want you to notice them. And share your vision. I've got some that one wants to go to the army and be a mechanic, one wants to do fine arts. I've said, well, we've got to really get your literacy going. You're a wonderful artist, but we need to get this literacy, and he's working really hard at that. So teachers, you're not sitting on your seat, you're actually with the children constantly talking. And yes, you have to have a good set of exemplars, varied, laminated, modelling books, great toolbox with co-constructed tools, text boxes to help your thinking. Sheena Cameron and Louise Dempsey are wonderful, their books are fantastic. Scaffold, simple rubrics. Christine, the first year teacher, has got blank rubrics alongside her desk, and so she just scribbles in for the children and glues it in. It only takes a minute. Her teacher aide helps her. Peer Buddy, available when needed. They enjoy peer editing. And of course you've got your digital resources for research, etc. You've got to have the why. It's got to be a school-wide. The embedding has to be school-wide. And you align everything. We've aligned our strategic goals, annual plan and appraisal to the learning. As I've said, we're learning again this year. There's so much that we're still at early stages. Practical examples are important. What do the capabilities look like in practice? We only do 2 a term and pull them apart. And you've got to back it up. We back everything up with research and readings, which I've really enjoyed. It's been lovely to have that coming into our staff room again. And we support and encourage and we celebrate. Yeah, it's a nice school to go to. It's all about the learning. Yeah, so that's that. I finished. Thanks.